The late afternoon sun draped its warm glow over Maplewood Park, where joggers moved to the beat of their earbuds, and children's laughter echoed from the playground. Along the quiet path near the duck pond, a little girl walked with the steady confidence of someone twice her age. Her name was Lily Granger, 8 years old, small for her age, with a tangle of honey-brown curls that always seemed half-tamed by a pink headband. By her side, never more than a foot away, was Max, a massive German shepherd whose sleek black and tan coat shimmered in the sunlight. His head was always up, ears alert, tail down but never dragging. There was a weight to the way he moved, purposeful, composed, as if he were constantly scanning the world for threats only he could see. To the other kids at the park, Max was a bit intimidating. Even the rowdiest ones knew better than to run up to Lily without announcing themselves first. "That dog don't play," one boy had muttered last week after Max stepped between him and Lily when he threw a frisbee a little too hard in her direction. But to Lily, Max was just Max. He wasn't scary or overbearing. He was her protector, her shadow and her best friend. She didn't know all the details about where Max came from, only that her Uncle Dean, a police officer, had brought him home after he retired from something important. She remembered that day vividly. Max didn't bark, didn't sniff curiously or cower. He had just walked right up to her, sat down and stared up as if to say, "You're mine now." Every afternoon since, Lily and Max made their walk around the pond, past the basketball court, then back through the tree-lined path near the benches. She talked to him about her day at school, her plans for the weekend, and how she really wanted a hamster, though she figured Max might eat it. He never responded, of course, but he always listened. That day was no different, at least, at first. Lily clutched the leash loosely, humming a song under her breath. Max walked beside her like a soldier on patrol. As they passed the basketball court, a group of teenagers were mid-game. The sound of sneakers squeaking against the pavement. One of the players paused to watch them pass. "Yo, that dog don't blink," he said to his friend. "Creepiest calm I've ever seen," his buddy laughed. "He's got ex-military energy for real." Lily didn't notice. She was too busy talking to Max about how math class made no sense and why fractions should be illegal. But Max noticed. He always did. As they moved past the court and toward the bench area, Max's ears flicked back briefly, a small movement, but intentional. He had heard something, registered it. Lily, as always, didn't pick up on the subtle shift in his posture. But the man sitting under the tree nearby, a grizzled figure in a NYPD ball cap, sipping coffee and watching the world like an old lion, did. Danny Price had served 20 years on the force before retirement. The moment he saw the dog's posture stiffen, he lowered his cup slightly and narrowed his eyes. "Huh," he muttered. "That's not just a pet." Max didn't bark, he didn't growl. But something had caught his attention, and it showed in the way his muscles subtly tightened and his gaze sharpened toward the sound of a motorcycle engine revving at the far side of the park. Lily, still unaware, skipped a step ahead, laughing as she pointed at a squirrel racing across a branch. "Max, look, it's like he's got zoomies." Max didn't break focus. Something was coming, and Danny, watching closely, knew it too. The dog wasn't playing. He was preparing. Something was about to happen, and when it did, that calm little girl with the sweet smile and her just a dog would find out that not everyone saw Max for who he truly was. But soon, they all would. The peace of the park was shattered by the growl of an engine, loud, raw, and deliberately obnoxious. Troy. Miller roared into the parking lot on a matte black Harley, the kind of bike built less for distance and more for show. The muffler snarled like an animal, causing nearby birds to flee the trees and a baby in a stroller to burst into tears. He didn't seem to notice or care. Right behind him came two more bikers, younger men dressed in matching denim vests with skull patches on the back, all riding in like they owned the place. Troy pulled to a stop near the benches, kicking out his boot with a cocky swing and stepping off the bike. His presence immediately sucked the calm out of the afternoon. Conversations quieted. The basketball game slowed. Even the wind seemed to pause. He took off his helmet and shook out a mess of blonde hair slicked back with effort, but already falling into his eyes. He wore wraparound sunglasses, a gold chain, and a smirk that suggested he thought everyone in the park should be grateful just to breathe the same air. His crew followed, parking without regard for the painted lines. One of them knocked over a trash can with a careless swing of the bike's back tire. Soda cans rolled across the path, but no one moved to pick them up. "Classy," muttered Danny Price from under the tree, adjusting the brim of his NYPD cap. As he watched from behind his coffee cup, Troy stretched his arms overhead and cracked his neck. "Nothing like fresh air and suburbia," he said loud enough for strangers to hear. "Place smells like diapers and dog food." His friends chuckled, more out of habit than humor. Then Troy's eyes landed on Lily and Max, who were approaching the shaded path leading toward the woods. His smile twisted. "Well, what do we have here?" Max caught the change instantly. His step slowed, his head raised just a touch higher. That steady gaze fixed on Troy like a laser beam, reading everything about him in seconds. Posture, tension, threat level. Lily, still lost in her own world, didn't notice the shift. She was bending down to examine a row of ants moving across the sidewalk. "Yo," Troy said, nudging his friend. "Watch this." His buddy raised an eyebrow. "What are you doing?" "Just a little fun," Troy replied, already moving toward the path. "Girl's got a dog that looks like it's guarding Fort Knox. I want to see if it even moves." Danny shifted forward on the bench. "Don't do it, kid," he said under his breath, but no one heard him. Or maybe they just didn't care. Troy strolled up with a fake friendly swagger, whistling as he approached. "Hey there, sweetheart," he called to Lily. Lily looked up, startled. She instinctively pulled the leash closer. Max didn't move, but his body had gone rigid, like a coiled spring waiting to release. Troy bent down just slightly, cocked one leg back like he was about to punt a football, and without any warning, kicked Max square in the ribs. "Bad dog," he laughed. Hands up in mock surrender. "I'm kidding, geez, lighten up," Lily screamed. Max didn't. He didn't yelp, didn't flinch. Instead, he turned. 1 second he was Lily's dog. The next he was something else entirely. He locked eyes with Troy, eyes that were suddenly hard, trained, ancient with instinct. His body lowered into a stance no average house dog could replicate. It was too precise, too fast, too controlled. Troy stumbled back, his smile slipping. "What the—" Max stepped forward with one sharp bark that made even the birds flinch. It wasn't just a noise, it was a warning. One final chance. Danny was already on his feet, coffee tossed aside, hand moving reflexively to where his badge used to be. Clipped. He was moving fast, his cop instincts taking over. "Get back," he barked. "Don't run, don't shout, that's not your regular mutt." Troy looked around, suddenly aware that the whole park had gone silent. People were filming. And Max wasn't done yet. Max didn't lunge. He didn't snarl or snap. His response was colder than that, disciplined, intentional. He stepped in front of Lily with surgical precision, body angled, muscles drawn tight like a spring that hadn't yet uncoiled. His front paws planted firmly. His chest swelled. His tail was down but not tucked. His bark, sharp, measured, and impossibly loud, echoed across the park like a rifle crack. Troy stumbled back a full step, one hand in the air, trying to play it off. "Whoa, easy, Cujo, it was a joke." Lily dropped to her knees beside Max, throwing both arms around his thick neck, face buried in his fur. Max, it's okay. I'm okay." But Max didn't move. He wasn't looking at Lily. His eyes never left Troy. Danny Price was already halfway across the grass, one hand extended and his voice firm. "Nobody move. Don't run. Don't yell. He's holding because the girl's touching him." Troy blinked, flustered. "What the hell are you talking about, man? It's just a dog." "No, son," Danny said, lowering his voice. "That's not just a dog. That's a K9 unit, or used to be." A woman on a nearby bench gasped and stood, pulling her child behind her. Around them, phones were out, recording. A jogger whispered, "Oh my God, I saw that kick. That guy just assaulted a dog." Troy's friend, still frozen near the bikes, called out nervously, "Troy, bro, let's just bounce." But it was too late for clean exits now. Max let out. Another bark, louder, more commanding. His upper lip didn't curl, but his message was clear. "Try something, I dare you." Troy raised both hands like he was facing a bank robber. All right, I didn't mean anything. I didn't even kick him that hard." Danny stepped in, close now. It doesn't matter how hard you kicked him. What matters is who you kicked. He turned to Lily, crouching to her level. Sweetheart, are you hurt? Lily shook her head, without speaking, still gripping Max. Danny turned back to Troy, eyes narrowed. You assaulted a miner's service animal in public. You think that's a joke? You're lucky he didn't tear your leg off, and you're really lucky that girl was holding him. Troy scoffed, trying to recover some swagger. You act like he's a robot or something. Danny ignored him and reached slowly into his back pocket, pulling out a laminated ID. Detective Daniel Price, NYPD, retired, and I know that stance. He pointed to Max. That dog's in what we used to call ready mode. That means he's seconds from a takedown and he's waiting on one signal, just one. Max hadn't moved, still like stone, but his ears twitched slightly, following the smallest sounds. He was listening, watching, measuring. Lily finally whispered something into his ear. Instantly, Max's posture shifted. His chest dropped an inch, his legs relaxed, his head turned slightly toward her. The change was so subtle, most of the bystanders missed it. Danny didn't. Good boy, he muttered, mostly to himself. By now a small crowd had gathered. A park ranger's truck rolled up nearby. The ranger stepped out, looking around. What's going on here? Danny gestured toward Troy. This man just kicked a retired police K9 in the ribs in front of a miner, got it all on video. You'll want statements from witnesses. The ranger's eyes widened. Seriously? Multiple people stepped forward. I got it on video. He just kicked the dog for fun. That man was provoking them. Troy's bravado drained from his face as the situation closed in. Wait, you're all acting like I committed a crime. Danny's voice was calm. You did. Max, still, silent, sat beside Lily now, but his eyes never left Troy's face. There was no more doubt, no more jokes. Max wasn't just a pet, he was a professional, and someone had just made a very serious mistake. Max sat, but it was the kind of sitting that still carried weight. Alert, taut, coiled. His chest rose and fell evenly, but his eyes remained fixed on Troy like a sniper with a locked target. The crowd that had started small had now grown into a half circle. Parents pulled their children close, teenagers angled their phones for better. Angles and voices buzzed with a mixture of concern, disbelief and awe. The park ranger stepped forward with a notebook, clearly tense. Okay, everyone, let's calm down. Sir, he said to Danny, you said this dog was a former police K9. Danny nodded. Name's Max. I recognize the posture, the command stillness, the way he handled the threat. You don't get that from a backyard obedience class. The ranger looked at Lily, who stood beside Max with one hand still resting gently on his head. Sweetheart, do you know where Max came from? Lily blinked, unsure whether to speak. Then quietly she said, My Uncle Dean brought him. He's a police officer. Max came from his station after he retired. Danny's jaw tightened. Dean Granger. Lily nodded slowly. Danny turned back to the ranger. That confirms it. Dean Granger handled a narcotics K9 out of the city precinct. Same breed, same name. I remember the dog. Max took down 2 smugglers in a hotel bust with nothing but hand signals. Saved an officer's life during a warehouse raid. He's a legend. The ranger whistled under his breath. And this guy kicked him like a toy. Troy, growing red in the face, raised his voice. Look, I didn't know that. I thought he was just some neighborhood mutt. I wasn't trying to hurt anybody. Danny took a slow step toward him, eyes steely. You don't get to hide behind ignorance. You assaulted a trained law enforcement animal in a public space. That's a felony in most states, retired or not, and you scared a child doing it. Troy threw up his hands. I didn't mean it. Everyone's acting like I'm some psycho. The park ranger stepped in, voice firm now. That doesn't matter. The law's not about what you meant, it's about what you did, and right now you're in a whole lot of trouble. One of Troy's biker friends finally spoke, his voice small. We didn't think it was a big deal, he was just joking. Danny glanced at him unimpressed. You don't kick a dog as a joke, especially not one who spent years protecting people like you, people who never even knew his name. Lily looked up at Max then, her voice soft but clear. Is he okay? Danny softened slightly. He crouched down to Max's level, taking a closer look. He didn't touch him, not yet. Max's body was still partially shielding Lily even now, but his tail flicked once, acknowledging Danny's presence. "He's more than okay," Danny said. "He's doing his job, even in retirement." Then, slowly, Danny murmured a word that only officers who'd worked with K9 units would know. "Befehl." Max immediately rose and stood at attention, still calm but now fully focused on Danny. The shift was subtle, but those who were watching saw it. Gasps spread through the crowd. Troy, backing up now, pointed. What did you say to him?" Danny stood. "It's a command from his working days. German. It means he still responds to the language of discipline, of purpose." By now, a police cruiser had pulled up beside the ranger's truck. 2 officers stepped out. One of them looked down, at his phone, then at Max. "That the dog in the video?" The ranger nodded. "That's him, and the man who kicked him right there." Troy turned pale. Lily crouched beside Max again, wrapping her arms around his thick neck. "You were amazing," she whispered. "Like always." Max didn't bark. He didn't growl. He simply sat, calm, composed, and utterly in control, and for the first time that day everyone understood. Max wasn't just a dog. He was a soldier in fur. By sunset, the video had already been shared over 10,000 times. It opened with shaky phone footage, a little girl in a pink headband walking beside a massive German shepherd. Then a man, smirking, arrogant, strode up and kicked the dog like it was a soccer ball. The crowd gasped, the girl screamed, and the dog froze, then turned, eyes sharp as steel. The rest of the video captured the slow unraveling of the man's composure, the bystanders' reactions, and finally the retired detective confirming the dog's elite past. The video caption read, "Biker kicks dog as a joke, didn't. Realize it was a retired police K9. Within hours it had its own hashtag, Justice for Max." In a quiet living room just a few blocks from the park, Officer Dean Granger, Lily's uncle and Max's former handler, watched the video with his jaw clenched. He sat forward, pausing it on the moment Max stood between Lily and the man who kicked him. That stance, that posture. It brought back memories. Raids, standoffs, late-night surveillance where Max never blinked, even when the rest of them were half asleep. The bond they'd shared had been more than handler and K9. It had been partner and partner. Dean rubbed a hand over his face. "You're still in it, huh, buddy?" He wasn't surprised Max had reacted the way he did. What surprised him was how composed the dog remained afterward. No aggression, no loss of control, only patience, discipline, and instinct, the qualities that had made Max legendary in the precinct. Dean grabbed his keys. It was time to see Lily and Max. Back at the Granger house, Lily sat on the porch steps, a blanket draped over her shoulders. Max lay beside her like a lion at rest, his eyes never fully closing. Her parents were inside, fielding phone calls. A local reporter had already reached out for an interview. Animal Control had stopped by, just to document Max's condition. He wasn't injured, just bruised, and had allowed the vet to inspect him with quiet tolerance. But the real weight was still settling in. Lily stroked his fur. "You were brave," she whispered, "even when I was scared." Max let out a deep breath and nuzzled her arm in return. Headlights flashed in the driveway. The front door opened, and Dean stepped out, still in uniform. His eyes met Max's. Immediately, and something unspoken passed between them. He crossed the lawn slowly. Max stood, not stiffly, not protectively, but like he was recognizing an old teammate. Dean crouched and ran his fingers through the fur behind Max's ears. "You still got it," he said softly. "Didn't even need a command." Max leaned in slightly, the only form of affection he allowed beyond his inner circle. Lily looked up. "Uncle Dean, is Max in trouble?" Dean shook his head. "Not even close. If anything, he handled it better than most officers would have." Lily chewed her lip. "The man said it was just a joke, but it didn't feel like a joke." Dean's expression hardened. "That's because it wasn't. People like him think they can act without consequences. But today, Max reminded everyone what a real protector looks like." From inside the house, Lily's mom called out, "Dean, Channel 6 is running the video right now." Dean exhaled. "Well, looks like the world's meeting Max again." He turned back to the dog, still standing tall in the porchlight. "You retired with honors, buddy. Looks like you're about to become a public figure too." Max sat back down beside Lily, unfazed by the attention. He didn't need a spotlight or applause. He'd done what he was trained to do. Protect the innocent, no matter the cost. The world was watching now. But Max was just watching over his girl. By morning, Troy Miller's life looked nothing like it had 24 hours earlier. He had gone to bed thinking the internet would forget that. It would move on to the next trend, the next scandal, the next viral flame. But when he woke up, his phone had 67 missed calls, and the screen was flooded with notifications. Justice for Max was still trending. One post read, "He kicked a retired hero and laughed about it. This wasn't a mistake. It was cruelty. Just Justice for Max." Another had freeze frames of Max's protective stance beside Lily with a caption, "Some superheroes wear fur." By 10 a.m., Troy's workplace at a local auto shop had suspended him pending further investigation. By noon, local news vans were parked outside his apartment building. By evening, he'd been publicly denounced by several veterans groups, a police union, and even an animal rights organization that didn't usually praise law enforcement. The consequences weren't stopping. Videos surfaced from other times. Troy had been less than respectful, heckling people, making crude jokes at parks, minor, scuffles at bars, nothing major before, but now all of it painted a picture, a bad one. The media didn't just see a man who kicked a dog, they saw a bully caught in high definition. Troy shut off his phone, pulled the blinds closed and tried to think. But all he could hear was Max's bark, sharp, commanding, unforgettable. Meanwhile, Max lay peacefully on the living room rug, legs stretched out, eyes half closed. He looked like any regular dog enjoying retirement, but the atmosphere around him had shifted. Lily sat beside him with a coloring book on her lap, occasionally scratching behind his ears. Dean stood nearby, arms crossed, watching his niece and his old partner. His instinct kicked in like it was yesterday, he said softly, to Lily's father. No hesitation, no panic. He sized the guy up and made a call. "He's not even limping," Lily's dad replied, glancing down. "Most dogs would have freaked out, bitten someone, but he responded like a trained officer," Dean finished. "Because he is one, even in retirement." The doorbell rang outside. A young woman from the local news stood patiently with a microphone in hand and a cameraman behind her. She smiled politely when Dean opened the door. "We're doing a segment tonight on Max's story," she said. "We'd love to ask you and Lily a few questions about what happened and who Max really is." Dean hesitated, then nodded. He deserves to be known. The interview was short, but powerful. Dean spoke about Max's past, the drug raids, the school demonstrations, the time he sniffed out explosives in an abandoned warehouse. He told them about the officers Max had protected, the children he'd comforted after tragedies, the quiet dignity he carried even when lives were on the line, and Lily. She said just 6 words, "He's my hero. I love him." The segment aired that night. The footage of Max calmly guarding Lily spread further. News anchors called him a reminder of quiet courage. Police departments across the country reposted the video in support. Even a few celebrities tweeted out tributes. Suddenly, Max wasn't just a dog in a park, he was a symbol. Troy, meanwhile, was receiving emails from a lawyer. His misdemeanor had escalated to a potential felony for assaulting a service animal. Multiple witnesses, video evidence, a retired detective ready to testify. In one short clip, someone had zoomed in on Max's face after the kick, stoic, unreadable, unshaken. Then panned to Troy's after Max stepped forward, wide-eyed, rattled, humiliated. The caption beneath said it all. The moment he realized he picked the wrong dog. That night, as the wind settled and the house grew quiet, Lily fell, asleep on the couch with her head resting on Max's back. He didn't move, didn't need to. The world could watch. The world could talk. Max's job was simple. Protect his girl. And he always would. The courthouse was unusually crowded for a misdemeanor hearing. Reporters lined the walkway, cameras rolling as onlookers whispered and pointed, not at the defendant, but at the dog. Max walked in calmly beside Lily and Dean. his gait steady, his eyes alert, his demeanor dignified. He wore no vest, no badge, but he didn't need either. Everyone already knew who he was. The prosecutor offered Troy a plea deal, but Troy declined. He'd hired a new lawyer, one who promised to expose the overreaction and downplay the dog's significance. Big mistake. Inside the courtroom, Judge Ramirez peered over her glasses at the gathered crowd. "I don't often see this many people for a case involving a dog," she said dryly. Dean stood and requested to testify first. He didn't wear his old uniform, but something about him still carried that unmistakable presence, authority without arrogance. When he described Max's service record, even the defense attorney stayed quiet. "He's not just a dog," Dean said. "He's a decorated officer. He's saved lives, found missing children, disarmed criminals. He didn't bite. He didn't chase. He just stood between a child and the man who attacked him. That's restraint, that's training." Then he reached into a small folder and placed a laminated certificate on the evidence table. It read, "Maximus, K9 Unit 0149, honorably retired, NYPD." The room fell still. Lily was called next, though she was nervous. Sitting beside Max, she was asked how she felt when Troy kicked him. "I was scared," she said quietly. But Max wasn't. He stood in front of me like he always does, like he knew exactly what to do. The defense tried to argue it was all overblown, just a prank gone wrong, but the videos told a different story. One played for the judge showed the moment Max stepped between Lily and Troy. Another captured the exact bark Max let out, controlled, commanding. Then the prosecution dropped something unexpected. A letter from the police commissioner entered into the record. It read, "Max's response demonstrated the highest level of control and protection, exactly what we trained him to do. Any civilian assaulting a retired service dog, particularly in front of a minor, should be held accountable." Troy's lawyer's face paled. Judge Ramirez took her time before speaking. "This court recognizes the unusual nature of today's case, but laws exist to protect working and retired service animals for a reason. Their value to our society cannot be understated. Mr. Miller, your actions were not only careless, but dangerous." She paused, then looked down at Max. "And this animal?" He showed more discipline and restraint than many humans might in his position. She pronounced a guilty verdict on one count of misdemeanor animal cruelty and one count of endangering a minor. Troy was sentenced to 6 months probation, 120 hours of community service at a local animal shelter, and a mandatory public apology. But the final moment came unexpectedly. As the courtroom began to empty, Judge Ramirez leaned over and said, "One more thing." She reached beneath the bench and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a gold-plated medallion engraved with a paw print and the NYPD badge number. "For exceptional service in and beyond duty," she said, presenting it to Dean and Lily. "This is the department's civilian commendation, post-service." Lily's eyes lit up. She looked at Max, then back at the judge. "Can I give it to him?" "You sure can." She crouched beside Max and gently clipped the medallion onto his collar. He stood proudly, still silent, still calm, but his ears perked and he let out one soft woof. The room, already emotional, erupted into quiet applause. Dean looked down at his old partner. "You did it again, Max." A week after the courtroom verdict, Max's story was still everywhere. The video had surpassed 12 million views. News outlets from across the country replayed the footage with updated headlines. "Retired K9 protects girl from attacker." "Max, the dog who never forgot his duty." "Not all heroes wear capes, some wear collars." But for Max, nothing had changed. He still woke up early, stretched his legs, and walked the yard like he was on patrol. He still followed Lily from room to room, never more than a few paces behind. He still slept by the front door at night, alert to every unfamiliar noise, only now his collar carried a medal, and his name was known far beyond the neighborhood. One sunny Saturday, the mayor held a small ceremony at the local community center. Uniformed officers, veterans, families, and children gathered outside. Max stood calmly beside Dean and Lily, drawing more attention than even the mayor himself. We are proud to name this space in honor of a hero who protected our streets, and one little girl, with the same quiet courage he always carried, the mayor said. From today forward, this park will be known as Max's Field. The crowd applauded. Max didn't react to the clapping, but when Lily bent down and whispered, "This is your park now," his tail thumped the grass once. After the ceremony, reporters asked questions. Some wanted to know what came next for Max. Is he going back into service? Will he become a therapy dog? Is he getting a book deal? Dean smiled and answered plainly. He's staying right where he is with Lily. He's earned the right to be a dog again, but the truth is, he never stopped being a guardian. Then he added, and no, he doesn't need a book deal. He's already written his legacy in the lives he's touched. That night, the family sat together on the porch. The sky was painted in hues of purple and orange, and fireflies blinked softly in the yard. Lily leaned against her mom, holding Max's medal in her hands. "Uncle?" "Dean," she asked, "will Max always be like this, always protecting people?" Dean smiled, a little bittersweet. "That's who he is. He might slow down one day, his legs might not move as fast, but the heart? That's always on duty." Max lifted his head, ears twitching at a distant sound, a car door slamming somewhere. Down the street, he didn't bark, just listened, assessed. Then laid his head back down. Lily whispered, "I feel safe because of him." Her mum kissed her forehead. "You should." And Dean, looking out at the park now named after his old partner, nodded in agreement. "You always will be." In the months that followed, more stories surfaced. Parents wrote letters saying how their kids felt safer in the park now. Retired officers sent notes thanking Max for reminding the world what a true working dog was capable of. A canine training center requested to name one of their new buildings after him. And a group of local teens even painted a mural at the park's entrance. It showed Max standing tall beside Lily, the American flag waving behind them, and words written in bold along the bottom. "Loyalty doesn't retire." Years later, long after the story faded from the headlines, Max still walked the field each morning. His steps grew slower, and his face turned silver around the muzzle. But the fire in his eyes never left. He had served his city. He had protected a child. He had stood tall when it mattered most, and long after the last news camera left, Max remained. What he had always been, a guardian, a legend, a best friend, and above all, a good dog.